Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Resituate this child/dog that I have acquired. Welcome back. Things have happened. This is not my dog, but I have him now.
It's not your house or your
It's also
dog.
not my house. Um,
Those those pictures of boys aren't even pictures of you in the back.
uh, not yet. Later, I might swap them out
Excellent.
as a welcome home surprise. All right. Well, once again, welcome back to this week's podcast, which this week is going to be brought to you by totally failed K-beauty routines and lots of dog escapade hijinks.
Uh, this week's podcast is also brought to you by Haunted Skyrim and Haunted Ice Cream.
Ooh, I'm your host, Madison.
I'm your other host, Jesse James. Uh, I see you had a dog when we started. Do you want to tell us about that dog?
Yeah, so I am currently house sitting/dog sitting for my boyfriend's mother, and she has 5 dogs. That was one of them. His name is Barry. He's very small and he's very cute, but they're all kind of uh, insane. Um, like the typical small dog insanity, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I was told before coming here that uh, they will try and get out of the backyard like at any cost. So
Okay.
when the people who come here to mow the lawns, Evan's mom was like, "You have to make sure to check the fence because we have rocks in certain places to keep the dogs from like squeezing out of holes and stuff." And sometimes they move them when they come, so you have to make sure that everything's put back. And so I did. Um, and this past weekend, they have learned how to dig.
Yeah.
They also do that. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Just
Uh,
some like legs slapping the couch. I'm not sure.
I see a very large leather-ish couch, which seems to be
Yeah,
something in every many dog owner's house.
yeah.
Um,
That's the dog couch.
Also, the idea of we have this fence, but we're just going to block it up with rocks to make sure they don't get out is something I've seen like 5 different dog houses do. So glad to know that's also a consistent thing.
Yeah. Well, Evan is his well, Evan is here, so he's helping me, but he's told me that the digging and tunneling out of the yard, which has happened since I've been here, is a
Yeah.
completely new thing. Like they've never done that before, but they decided to learn the week that I am dog sitting them. They are now
Okay.
going to dig tunnels out of the yard, which I can't really uh curtail because there's just dirt and fence and freedom on the other side. So I can't, like, I just have to stand outside with them when I take them out and make sure they don't, like, jailbreak themselves. I don't know.
Well,
Anyway,
uh, that sounds like why I don't like to dog sit.
it's been, overall, it's nice. I like dogs, so they're nice to be around, but kind of, uh, they're kind of insane. Like, they climb on stuff, and I found out that they do climb on like the kitchen counters when nobody's here.
That's when
So
you started talking, yeah, like now. That one gets on the back of the couch. Uh,
Daisy.
and is very excited about it.
Oh my god. Okay, there's no
Oh,
one there.
now I've seen 3 dogs around you now, but they disappeared behind you again.
There's another one staring up at me, like beckoning me to pick him up, like this. Um, yeah, there's 3 like small brown ones that look pretty similar. There's Barry, who's the pug, and then Leo, who's the mutt, and then Daisy, who is the mom and the pug. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that sounds like an exciting household.
Mhm.
We were talking when we were starting this up about this being the potential loud cast because we both have weird extra things happening around us today.
Yeah. Many weird extra things.
A lot of smaller dogs just seem like they turn into weird hairy statues when they're like picked up.
Yeah. I think this one does that too.
I also like the framing in the cut will probably be the dog and
just sitting. I'll scooch so we can get some of my face. Yay.
As long as it's like 50% human face, I think we're all good.
That's all. That's all. That's all we need. Anyhow. Yes.
Well, that sounds exciting. It sounds like a lot of extra work. Your internet seems like it's doing fine, though, which is always a fun surprise when things move around.
It is a fun surprise to be somewhere that does have good internet.
Mm.
And it's very nice, which helps the working, actually, but also I have now twice had to run out in my pajamas to wrangle like 5 dogs in the street. So that's a little
Nice.
productive, but
I would say it's very productive, but
yeah,
less pleasant for sure.
yeah, not a good start to the morning, but the dogs like it.
Hmm. Ow. Well, much like part 2 and part 3 of that dream you sent me, who cares?
Oh my god. I don't know. Should we even talk about it? I was sent that by my grandmother, and it took him a real long time to get to anything.
That was one of the longest 13 minutes of watching something. The video I watched of the crazy guy who wants to trick women was 45 minutes long, and that was like not much longer feeling than this 13-minute long video.
Yeah.
Also, car testimonial, I feel like is the that is the favorite scenario of religious or right-wing videos. It's almost always a vertical shot in a car. Like that is where they feel like they need to talk about things. So good to see that is still a universal.
I mean, when God sends me prophetic dreams, I usually just go sit in my car so I can talk about them.
Uh-huh.
That's where I feel most in touch with God.
It's 4-part story. Part 1 is standing on a circular platform in front of a crowd, and they're anxiously awaiting your speech.
Uh-huh.
Part 2, who cares? Part 3, who cares? And then part 4 is where the whole dream is. I don't know why the description of it being 4 parts even happens.
No, because they're not like distinctive parts of a dream.
Right.
Like nothing.
And I'll listen to people's dreams. I know that that's the most boring thing in the world for a lot of people, but like it's always interesting enough to like try and figure out even just why they think the things that are important in their dreams are important.
Yeah.
And I took notes because I knew that it would be hard to remember the pieces of it, but so this guy is noted as a Dr. Bridges, which for me, because I've I'm still like a third to halfway through Death Stranding. The main character of that game is called Bridges. And so that's the only thing I could think of when I saw his name. I don't know anything about this guy. I'm not going to find out anything about this guy, but it says that he's a doctor, and that's also one of those things that if the current like 10 layers of crisis on the United States has taught us anything, it's that being a doctor does not make you smart. It does not make you like wise in any way. It just makes you good at the job that you do, hopefully. But being a doctor means you are committed to the idea of hopefully bettering people and or bettering yourself. And that's the only thing I think we can take from it. Because, like, technically, those chiropractic doctors from the pandemic video are also doctors. And I kind of put this guy in the same category as them. I didn't at the start of it, because it was like, okay, sure, this is a weird way to describe it, but at the end of it, it just turns into like a prayer circle. So what do you remember of the story of part 4 of this dream, now that you haven't seen it in the last hour or whatever?
I think the only things that I specifically remember, because I think they were just visuals that he mentioned, was like a big book with gilded pages.
Yeah.
At some point he's in the White House, I guess. But it's not like the room with the Resolute desk or anything. It's like kind of different. And he, I don't remember where that comes up, but he sees this book that has gilded pages, and then at some point he moves into another room with another desk that is still not the Resolute desk, but it's a new room. And there's a voice, I think, that tells him to, like, come hither. And so he goes into yet another room with another desk, and I think there's a man named Victor.
All of these things that you're talking about do exist in this dream. And that's why I took notes, because the details of it that are very forgettable are completely insane. So part 1, like I said, on a circular platform, about to give a speech to a group of anxious people. Part 2 and part 3, he just says, like, I'm not going to talk about those. I desperately want to know what part 2 and part 3 are, because that's the part that would actually be like maybe setting a scene of some kind. So he goes from the podium, not yet making a speech, to a restaurant with his wife, in which all the servers are a little too tall, very, very thin, and psychic, and they know what you're going to order before you order it.
Oh, okay, I forgot about that.
And he says that he forgets his order as he's ordering, but they know what his order is going to be anyway. So they're in this psychic restaurant, and then his wife looks at him and says, "Don't forget the Bible from Mr. Trump." And and when she says, "Don't forget the Bible for Mr. Trump," he teleports, and he's at the, no, he's not at the White House. He's in a room with the Secret Service. And then he goes on to say that all the Secret Service men are way too tall. The Secret Service are too tall because they're angels. So he teleports from the psychic restaurant to a location with Secret Service members who are all too tall because they're angels. Very important. He then, he is brought into the room with the first book, where he just sees like a Bible, I think, sitting there. And I think he grabs that one, and it's like a gilded Bible or whatever. But he's in an empty room with like books and stuff, but empty of people, with a camera. And then he isn't getting any response until he tells the camera he brought the Bible for Mr. Trump. And then the door opens. And inside is another room with a desk and a man named Victor sitting at the desk. And then the storyteller says, that's symbolic that his name is Victor. He never comes back to it. He just wants you to know that his dream naming choice is very cool and very important. Then he is led into another room in which he walks into a place that isn't the White House, but it's a private residence. And it's the thing that bothers me about this part of the dream is that he keeps saying like he's not necessarily like pro-Trump, kind of. He just says that he's not pro-Trump, but
pro-truth.
He's pro-truth and he's pro Jesus's word or whatever, and the direction of God is that Trump is now a wrecking ball for God. Anyway, so he goes into this private residence that's like the White House, but not quite, which makes it feel like, well, of course he should have been able to move his White House to Mar-a-Lago or whatever the fuck he wanted to do. Which is just a weird, like, side note for that story to have. And then he meets Trump, but he's 8 to 10 feet tall. And he has a 30-pound Bible already. So he already has his Bible. He never mentions that that's weird that he already has it. But the fact that Trump is 8 to 10 feet tall also is insinuating that he's an angel or something, and he has a 30-pound Bible. And then that's right. He has a 30-pound Bible that reads right to left like a Hebrew Bible.
Oh,
he
I do remember that detail.
Makes that point. And then Giant Trump says that he can't remove the ancient foundations. He's protecting the ancient foundations, and then he wakes up. So all of that stuff together, and I imagine filling out all these details a little bit when you're awake, because that kind of dream, that amount of dreaming rarely has that many specific details that you can just grab. Mm-hmm. Even if it's like, I have a lot of vivid dreams, and it's usually like a tiny piece of the actual thing that you can wake up remembering, but not like this giant storyline with multiple parts, typically, unless you're maybe wanting to tell people about your cool Jesus dream where Trump is the second coming or an angel or something. Anyway.
Yeah, a positive disruptor, I think, is what he kept calling him.
Sure. Yeah, he did mention a lot about how, like, well, he was repeating the thing that people were saying to get Trump elected, which was, we need somebody from outside of Washington if we want to change Washington. And it's also disheartening to see somebody right now saying the same shit that they said 4 years ago and believing it. So the thing that I ended up taking away from it at the end, because the last like 5 minutes are just him repeating a bunch of like prayer circle shit, essentially, of we all know Trump's here for a reason kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that I backed up and sort of looked through, and the reason why I was initially upset that you sent this to me at all, because it was like a half hour or so of looking at this garbage. So there is a comment that goes up on that video every half second through the entire 13 minutes of that video, and almost 100% of them are not only extremely religious but extremely pro-Trump. And it lists on the comments for Facebook videos, like the reactions that they've had, and almost every one of the messages that goes through has like 10-ish like happy faces attached to it or hearts attached to it. Whenever somebody says, there was one in particular that's at like the 11 or 12 minute mark, that's somebody saying like, doesn't this strike anybody as like sort of false idolatry or anything like that? Like, this is a little weird to be this excited about a dream about not Jesus. And there were like 1,000 angry faces attached to it. And then it would go back to like, 10 or so. Every once in a while, there'd be one with a whole bunch of happy faces. But the farther towards the end it got, the more they just... It was literally people saying like, praise Jesus, for like comments and shit. It was pretty insane. So if you wanna start with a boring video that gets real weird and then also is sort of a Black Mirror episode condensed into a 13-minute span, I strongly suggest watching that.
Yeah.
Do you wanna talk about any of the other aspects of this, like the reaction to you saying that you're not gonna pray for Trump, things like that, or is that too inside?
I mean, it's not super inside. I feel like I think just generally what I would say is that I'm pretty sure my family is aware that I am not a Christian. I don't pray. I don't do any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But for certain members of my family, they kind of treat me like I am still, and will ask me to do things like pray for the president. To which I will respond, I don't believe in that, and then I will be met with complete incredulousness, whatever. However you say that. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Which I don't get. Like, I'm not. I get the feeling that I'm trying, like, I don't know. I know it's not malicious. Right. For them to do that, but it still feels like I'm being gaslit every time. Like, they can fool me into believing in prayer. Anyway, the other thing that I said when that was sent to me was just like, the, like, what do they call them? Ancient traditions? What is it that he was saying, or like at risk of being
ancient
destroyed?
Foundations.
Yeah. So I said something like the ancient foundations that he's talking about, which he wasn't very specific about what that is, apart from like prayer, I think was the one specific thing that he named.
Yeah.
And the Bible generally.
He said the Bible, praying, and I think he said the church. But yeah, it was all essentially being religious. Yeah. Was the ancient foundations.
Yeah. And so what I had said was like, well, I believe in the separation of church and state, so I really don't think that some of those things, to the extent that he was talking or wanting them involved, should be a part of like government and like that how that runs. And I don't know, that part was kind of ignored, but that was just kind of the response. Yeah, I watched one of his other videos just to get some like context.
I didn't do that.
It's fine. You're not missing anything. He recently put up another one where he claimed that COVID-19 is not just a virus, but it is a demonically driven virus, and the demon that drives the virus feeds off of fear. So the more that you're scared of the pandemic, I guess the more susceptible you are to COVID. And I did not stay for the whole video, but I really would not be surprised to see the logic taking the jump of wearing a mask is basically admitting your fear. And then
That's
it's going to come get
also
you.
that puts him squarely in the center between pandemic, like shitty doctors, this guy, and then Alex Jones. Like that is a perfect midpoint of like he's more into demons than these chiropractors, but he's not as into like engineered Bill Gates demons as Alex Jones, but he is in the fear is the mind killer version of the pandemic. And eventually, I'm just gonna get so deep into garbage stuff that I'm gonna accidentally start calling the pandemic the plandemic, and that's a bummer. But until that point, it should. I don't know. I guess there always has to be a spectrum of people. It's just seeing people who think this way, and the 1,000 other people that are like 0.001% of the population or whatever that absolutely agree is frustrating because I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's frustrating to me. Like I said, I think a lot of it's not malicious, but as soon as you have the idea in your head that the way that you think of things and the way that you do things is the right way, and everybody who's not doing it that way is like objectively morally wrong, and there's no room for, I don't know, maybe there other religions exist and other people don't believe the same thing as you. I don't know. As long as you're in that headspace, like there's like no middle ground. There's no way to talk to those people. But
moral wrongness is the excuse for almost every genocide. It's also the excuse for like denying workers' rights to people. It's also the excuse for like there being rich people and poor people. Like the moral war is maybe the actual biggest problem. So seeing stuff like this is frustrating because I know that it's not just the people who see this video that think that way, but it's still not good. It maybe the most notable thing though is how incredibly stupid it is if you're not already bought in, and how hard that would make it to get back out, because people are going to look at everything you've done as though you're the worst, like, high school junior. And now that you've spent an entire year wearing a fedora and calling everybody milady, they're not going to let you come back in as easily. And you're also aware if you do come around to like, oh, wait, there's real life outside of this, that like it's going to be incredibly embarrassing to like backstep out of that. I feel like people associate those kinds of feelings with being a kid, but they forget that being a kid is just smaller than being an adult. Like there's tons of old racist assholes that are exactly the same way. They can't ever take that fedora off.
That's a really good metaphor. I like that a lot. He also said one thing in the video that I wanted to just publicly ridicule. He he kept saying over and over during his like, I'm not a Trump supporter, I'm a truth supporter portion of the video. He was like, people forget personality is not policy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, could you extend any of that reasoning to like any part of Christianity? There's so much. There's like literally verses in the Bible that are like, if a person's actions are gonna tell you the kind of person that they are. Like there's always like forgiveness, whatever. But if a person is continually doing the same thing and then asking for forgiveness for it, that kind of negates it because they're not really, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but personality really does inform policy decisions, especially when your personality is like being a crotchety old racist who only has himself, like, is only looking out for his own interests. So I probably the dumbest thing I had ever heard someone say in, like, defending Trump. That's a really dumb line of reasoning.
I mean, there aren't very many ways to defend Trump anymore. So saying that just don't worry about him, it's the policy that we like, is really the only thing that you have left. Especially because if you say anything past that, his policy is like segregation, even if it's like under the guise of just increasing all of the like wage disparities and stuff, and taking away all of the native land possible, taking away ecological protections. Like, his policies are the worst.
Not good. Like, I don't know what point you're trying to prove. And I love the kind of double-edged sword that they run into a lot of, even if you're not, like, say you're blaming his policies and how bad they are on the people underneath him. At best, he's bad at his job and bad at like hiring people, which he is. Yeah. But like, what is the argument? Either he's an idiot who can't do things right himself, or he hires bad people, which is literally his entire brand, as being a good boss.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can win either way.
Yeah, the policies of a bad businessman mixed with the policies of a horrible racist don't really give me a lot of good feelings, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe people who are fans of his just really liked when he tried to have those 5 young people of color murdered for no reason. Huh. Maybe that's what they like about him. Maybe when he hit on that 14-year-old outside of his own building, and when she said that she was 14, he went, well, soon enough. Basically, like, maybe that's what they like about his whole thing. But his policies and his personality don't go together, I guess.
I guess not. Yeah, not at
all. I feel like it's worth mentioning that giving Roger Stone clemency as a like way of showing how much we should care about, I guess, rich people going to prison, but not anybody else, is also one of the good policies.
Yeah, that was really, really good, and not at all terrifying, and yet another step towards authoritarianism.
It's the one upside is that it is clemency. It's not a pardon, so he is still guilty of a felony, for whatever that's worth. But like, that almost makes it worse for me, because that means that this person, by our rules as they stand, should be in prison. And the people who are protesting to try and get those people who are in prison to not be in prison, at least, those people are wrong. But the president's right when he takes a rich man and says, no prison, though. You're still a felon, but no prison. While people who sell weed are in a essentially a bathtub with thousands of other people, some of which have COVID, just mashing them together. So
doing essentially slave labor.
Yeah, doing exactly slave labor, but for companies that have licenses to do that, so it's fine. Yeah,
Yay, America.
That's a much bigger problem than just this president, but by showing what like is and isn't okay for people to be put in prison for, I think it kind of shows a lot of the hand of why. And the why is, he's rich and I like him. It's fine.
He's my buddy.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
He helped Nixon and he'll help me.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Yeah. On the upside, there have been some indigenous peoples wins lately, even if they're like not finalized wins.
Yeah.
So that's good.
That is an upside. That is good. Glad to see that.
They've now stopped having a YouTube news section, so they no longer have to show anything about protesting. It's only COVID news now, and it says that on a info bar. So that's interesting. I don't know that YouTube has a specific dog in that fight, at least not to the degree of some places, but they definitely have changed the layout. They moved news 2 layers further down, and they changed it to just COVID news. So, cool.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I know that I dislike the way that people are interacting with the world around them currently.
What could go wrong?
That's
YouTube
true.
Doing things.
What could go wrong?
I feel like that reminded me of something I was gonna mention. Can't remember right now. We'll come back to it if I think of it.
Is it about these pork rinds?
It is now. You're gonna have to give us some excellent ASMR. That was pretty good.
It's got a good crunch to it. They're like air puffed a little differently than some, so they're very soft. And then I also have these like reduced fat chips, which hopefully doesn't mean I'm gonna shit my pants later. But I guess we'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
It'll go with my scene Kappa look that I feel like I'm keeping right now if I just shit my pants as well.
It's all part of the new look.
Now that I had to shorten my facial hair again, but I wasn't able to go to the dentist, so I have to wait till the 21st now. So I'll just have to re-shorten it again. But what I think next podcast we do will be the day before that, so I can be nervous on camera. Yep.
Yeah. That sounds like good podcasting content, being nervous on camera. Actually, that explains pretty much every single time we do this for me.
Yeah.
Just always being kind of nervous on camera.
That dog doesn't look nervous, though.
He's fully asleep. Which is pretty good. I enjoy holding this dog like a baby.
What level of warmth is the dog? Are they hot dogs
warm.
or okay?
That's kind of why I'm enjoying it, and I'm allowing this so much because it is kind of cold in here.
I was hoping it would be cold again today, so that having the lights and the computer on and stuff would be okay. And of course, today it's hot. Also today, speaking of one of my topics, I heard a fucking ice cream truck go up and down the street for like a half hour earlier.
Really?
It's the worst time for that. What's that?
Hey, you want some ice cream treats? How if
Hey, kid, you want some ice cream? Yeah, maybe not the best time to crowd a bunch of small kids around a weird food truck that just kind of travels around and has a lot of people touch it.
Hey, I mean, they might be going back to school soon, so good idea to get that herd immunity up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, get everybody sick ASAP. Because then we'll just have a bunch of people die, and that'll be cool. And then everybody can go like, this will fix it, right? We don't know much about how this actually works long term, but this will fix it. That'll be fun. Yeah, I'll like that.
I think that's how it goes. I can't remember what scientists or what news organization it was that I read this from, but I saw an article where I guess somewhere out of a lab in China, they were saying that they were finding that the antibodies for COVID start going away after like a few weeks.
Yeah, so I kind of heard bits of that too. Yeah. That's one of the few things that goes pretty succinctly with the fact that there have been occasional instances of people saying they have caught it again, even though they caught it early, which is frustrating because those things are, yeah, they're potentially fear-mongering to a degree, but we don't know if they are, and we need to check. And just being... Was that a dog gurgle?
It was, yes, that was a dog gurgle. I'm surprised you could hear it. It was pretty quiet. Wow.
I lived with dogs for a long time. The weird dog noises are noticeable to me, at least. You have to hear that shit if you live with a bunch of large dogs, because you have to know if they're on the other side of the door to your room full of paintings that you're about to open.
That is important.
Because if you're not ready for it and you have, say, a painting on your bed or something, they will jump on that shit for sure. And there's nothing you can do about it. I never had any problems with dogs, though.
Clearly not. Clearly not something you've ever experienced, I can tell.
I like wrestling with them. That's fun. Dogs are good friends, but not kids I would want, I guess is what my opinion of dogs is.
Yeah, I kind of would agree with that. Cats, as I hold this one like a child.
Yeah. Cats are bad friends, but they're good house partners. So I prefer a cat just because it's less destructive usually, but you kind of run the same risks of things getting pissed on no matter what. So
yeah,
pets are complicated. And as I found out, it can also be a chinchilla, I think, that stood up and peed out of the cage in like a 4-foot arc. So any of them can do that shit.
Some of them are more aggressive with the pissing than others.
Well, because of the size of the stream, you have to be.
That was just true.
That was the face that it made as it shot piss across the room.
Yeah, I've come to learn that that's actually a pretty standard chinchilla thing. I didn't know that. I had one a long time ago.
I didn't know that either. Do now.
That's just kind of their thing, was the piss shooting.
Nice.
No, it's a perk. It's a feature.
So while I still have this, this isn't piss. This is lychee and like nice. A little bit of sparkling something, and then like kiwi and apple like flavor in like a sparkling soda. So first off, I need to take this lid off for the dark business I need to conduct. Also, I need you to see this. I think it's supposed to be a little lychee man, but he's definitely a little penis man. And then I'm going to just go ahead and open up my flavor pack here.
Nice. Excellent.
Get that delicious additive and just get that right back up to the top.
A PBR lychee kiwi lemon drink.
Yes.
I think the name of this episode needs to be "What Could Go Wrong."
Look at the little leaf on top. It's perfect.
Ooh.
I'll take a better picture of that so we have it, because it really is a great look. Here I go. Here I do it.
Here I do it.
Here I do it.
It sounds interesting. You'll have to keep me posted on keep us informed of what that concoction tastes like.
Also, I want to inform people that so I had very healthy onions just growing out of onions for like a month and a half. Thick, strong, healthy onions. Put them in dirt, well aerated. Everything's exactly like what onions need. They hate it. Now that they're planted, they're like really struggling.
Really?
Yeah. So I guess onions should just be with nothing.
I guess.
It's very frustrating. It's not like a huge loss. It's literally old onions that my roommate didn't eat. So it was very nice to have them. They're still alive. I'm not going to give up on them or anything. Oh, that lychee's really mixed in with that Pabst nice. And I suggest everybody try to grow an onion just to see.
I think, yeah, that sounds like a good life experience to have.
I didn't anticipate having to chew the Pabst, but I guess I should have. It's good, though, actually. I would suggest it.
It sounds like a nice, refreshing summer recipe.
Yeah, it actually it is much more pleasant than I anticipated. I kind of thought I was making a monster here, but I think I made a new summer favorite.
Oh,
from my house to yours.
It's a homeboy special. The one kid. Oh no! Hey.
Oh.
Stop.
Is there a homeboy intrusion?
There's not anything. I don't know what's happening.
Did you guys change a tire? Yes. Do you want to take a sip of this Pabst tea? Sure. We're going to get a second opinion here, everybody.
I'm scared. Okay. Wait.
Huh?
The Pabst was trying to be trashy classy, which I think is kind of your vibe.
Yeah, trashy classy.
And that would work.
So
it tastes better than I expected.
Yeah, exactly. It tastes better than you expect. The reviews stand. Consensus.
That's what we were looking for. It makes sense. Are you finally going to get off of me now?
It's a slow process.
It's like a foot. You jumped up here. There it is. Oh dear. He'll be back in about.
Oh, is there another dog eating in line?
No, there was some very luxurious leg stretching that I wasn't expecting, like a very. Ooh. Oh God. So I don't know what I did over the weekend, which was the last time I was drinking this. I remember earlier that evening being on some sort of a crusade to finish this. I think it was like half full.
It's a fair amount of sake to do in a night.
I thought I did. I thought that I did, but then I woke up the next morning and it was like still to here, and I was like,
did I spit in this?
I don't know what happened because I'm pretty sure I finished it. And as we were getting ready to do our pod, I poured the rest of it, and I realized that I don't know why this is, but this is full of water, and I don't know if I did that or if Evan did this to me, but this is straight up just water out of a sake bottle.
Does it at least taste a little bit like sake?
Kind of, but I'm so like I was so shocked by the discovery that now I'm kind of afraid to drink it. I'm like, I don't know who did this or why.
Who's done this to me?
I'm pretty sure it wasn't me because I had some significant amount of sake, but I'm pretty sure I would remember doing that. But
I don't know. You pour out the good part. You don't have any Pabst mixed drinks to have over there?
I do have one thing. I will be right back.
Normally, I would take this time to talk to everybody, but I'm going to go get some more coffee because my sleeping was bad. So enjoy this intermission.
It's just like if a dog sings.
What? Ooh.
Miller 64.
Very nice. 5 digits away from nice.
Extra light.
So, go on.
This is only 2.8% alcohol.
Jesus.
Kind of feels like, why? Why am I even drinking this?
Yeah.
Because I don't like the taste of it, so...
That's like Mormon beer.
I think I've done this correctly.
You know what we forgot today in our, I don't know, not lack of preparedness, just regular preparedness. We forgot to do the intro.
Oh no! And I had so painstakingly prepared something. I do have this handy.
Ooh. Well, tell you what, I'm going to do the back from intermission song, and then you can close us out at the end. So we'll start it in media res, and then we'll just come back in. I think the biggest part of this that has to be stated is these have to be improvised and hopefully bad, or it's not going to really be our brand. So let's see. What's the back from intermission song? We're back from intermission now. That'll be today's rebirth of podcast. So if you think you can do something at least that good, you better get it ready for the end.
Okay. I'll be thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be thinking some thoughts. There's a fly.
Also guaranteeing that if I'm... How is it? How is that almost no alcohol? Is it bitter?
I can taste all 64 of them calories. They're all in my mouth right now.
That's not what you want. This I think they'll be cut out of the final, but this dogs popping up over the couch and looking towards the screen is very good.
Like the meerkat sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't go to the zoo for the foreseen future, so this is sort of the closest version.
It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like thank you for bringing that in.
Oh, yes, you're welcome.
Is that a painting over there of the killer whales native to Idaho?
That is a painting of the killer...
it's an Alaska painting.
Yes, Petersburg, Alaska.
Oh, right. That's where they're from.
Yes, these are the Alaskan people.
The lower Alaska, the Alaska.
The can.
Canada, Alaska.
I don't know my Alaska well enough to know where in Alaska I was when I was in Petersburg. So
Here's the big chunky Alaska. You're on the little part that's like attached to Canada.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with being there. I've really only ever been like through there via car. I've never really spent much time in any of those areas, but I'm sure they're fine.
That's a good way to describe them.
Yeah. It's the Spokane of Alaska, let's say. There's lots of good stuff there if you want to live there.
If you're attached to it in any way, it's pretty all right. But yeah, it was fun the one time I went there. It was the only time I've ever been to Alaska, and I liked it.
Honestly, me having weird, misplaced pride towards the center of Alaska, it was that a dog sneeze or just a movement thing? If somebody in an animal mask starts creeping down the stairs, I'll let you know. Get the knife! Anywhere in Alaska, save for some of the people who are very like gun rightsy, is sort of better than most of the rest of the country. So
yeah,
you're good wherever you are. Honestly, there are a good mix of like, I don't know, hillbilly in a good way. I mean, that's how I would describe myself too. So that's sort of what you can expect up there. There are craft beers. That's about as fancy as you get.
I like it. That's a good vibe. That's a good vibe. Yeah. That's kind of the general attitude I think I got in Petersburg as well. My favorite thing about Petersburg so far has been that there's nothing to do in the town because there's less than like I would say 1,000, but probably like less than 800. I don't know. Really, really small.
Okay.
But the one activity that there is to do there is to go out the road, which is just driving down the highway, and there's no discernible activity like associated with being out the road other than I think just like drunk driving or like pulling over and drinking beer and then you're out the road.
Yeah. Honestly, that doesn't sound that different from when I was younger and it was my slightly older, slightly drunker uncle's turn to take care of the kid. And it would be like, we're going to drive to the hippie area and we're just going to sleep in a car and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It was a very out the road feel as you're describing it.
Out the road is a state of mind.
Yeah. Out the road did bring me my first Prodigy album, I guess. Which was old even when I got it. And then also it was not a gift, but I thought it was. And then it was given to me because I think he felt bad that it wasn't. This is a story for me only, I think. But we were at one of the many very well-lit gas stations in Alaska. And they had cassette tapes, which was basically all anybody had in their car, and they had a Fat of the Land Prodigy album cassette tape there, and I liked the crab on the front, and also I think I had heard like Smack My Bitch Up at some point, and I was like, oh, nice, and I was like, oh, think that I can afford this, but like, let me check. And my, I mean, I was a kid, so like, it would have been money I had like stowed in my wallet, essentially.
Mhm.
And my uncle's response was, "Oh, no, I'll buy that." And then I thought that that meant that he was buying it as a gift, because when you
Mhm.
hear that as a kid, your assumption is like, "Oh, thank you." But that was not the case.
Oh no.
But I did appreciate it afterwards, and I'm gonna say now, as somebody who's probably about his age when he bought that, he can afford another one. I think he'll be fine.
I think that would also be my reaction to hearing that in that context.
Yeah, that would be my reaction if you said that to me, let
Yeah.
alone me as a kid and my uncle. But yeah, it. I don't know. A lot of weird road trips, but except for the occasional fear of dangerous animals, it's pretty much all pretty nice up there. People are far apart enough still that there isn't that sense of like my neighbor's tired of me, so I'm gonna find out that not only are they fiercely religious, they're also going to kill me for Jesus or something. You don't get as much of that feeling up there. If it weren't for oppression of the indigenous people, it would be pretty great up there. That's still there, so that part sucks. But hopefully they are working on it.
That would be a good thing to work on. I do really like the idea of having neighbors, but like they're far away. But they're my
Right.
neighbors, but they're far.
Yeah,
Are you
even in
gonna?
the city compared to like out here in Kirkland, if you're off in like the living districts of Anchorage, it's still not like packed together. Like really not a hard I don't know, not a hard way of finding your space. Probably because in the winter your space is all you have for the most part. So.
Yeah.
Also, I like lighting that is meant to simulate sunlight when you're going places, and most places have that because in the winter, if you don't, you'll go insane. So
Hmm.
that's also nice. When it's light from like 11:30 to like 1, and it's like only kind of.
I don't know that I could do that as a person who can't like sleep when it's light out at
Yeah.
all. Generally, I don't know that I would be able.
I think it has an effect on people. Thankfully, I am fine with sleeping when it's light out. So in the future, I would like to go there and spend more time, but I would like the country to not be imploding before that.
I don't know. That's quite an ask.
Yeah. As I was sort of anticipating during a cyber birthday, I'll talk about. Uh, Whether I get married to a person or myself, I would like to do that in Alaska at some point. I feel like it's the only mix of artsy and trashy that I can really soak into.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, and everybody will be forced, as is tradition with weddings, to go.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't mind being forced to go to an Alaska wedding.
yeah. And it'd probably be I don't know, Homer, after going there for my grandpa's funeral, it's the perfect place for a wedding.
There you go.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Mm-hmm. It can be donut based as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Would you be one of those people that had like a donut tower instead of a cake? Or a donut wall? I think it's a donut wall is like the thing now.
I don't know what a donut wall is, but I'm intrigued.
It's like, I think I've seen these on Pinterest, so it's just a wall with like pegs on it, and they just are putting donuts on the pegs.
That sounds barbaric.
It sounds bad, and it probably in practice is also bad, but that's like the new thing. Why are you looking at me so much? Stop it.
Show me donut wall.
I'm looking to see if I can find donut.
Oh, yeah, this is more common than I thought. See, the problem with a donut wall also is that while I love donuts, this one even is covered in crullers, which is ideal. You can only eat, like, if you get donuts at the same time, you can only eat, like, maybe 6. If you're really, like, living hard, you can go through a dozen before they are stale. And the idea of a donut wall also means you are just going to have stale donuts at the end of it. And I don't need to go bury donuts as part of my... Like, that's not what I want to do for a wedding.
I like the visual. The visual is nice, but it also, in practice, seems like, kind of a waste of donuts. I really like whoever's idea this was to just have a big headline of donuts.
Donuts!
Just in case the donuts weren't going to be enough to indicate this is indeed a wall of donuts. Let's label it. Can you stop biting me, please?
Bite that. Madison.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
You gotta bite it back. Your mouth is bigger than its mouth.
He has like Dobby ears, kind of.
That's too bad.
I'm not mad about it on a dog, actually. Let's see if we can show off the ears.
I mean...
Face the camera!
Oh!
I
kind of got just whenever dogs sit like that, they kind of just have a weird human body with like that weird like chicken breastbone thing that they all have.
Yeah. I really like just...
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
How every dog sits is just...
Just the floppy hand is real pleasing. I'm trying to...
Yep.
He's like...
Yep. Perfect.
You've done it. You've
what do you think of this?
Derailed this podcast.
Here you go, dog. Can you hear? Yep.
What's that?
Very confused.
I just feel the pitter patter of his little heart inside of his body, like,
what?
What is going on?
If I know anything about dogs, they like high tones unexpectedly. Oh, especially if they're in the distance.
Or coming from an indiscernible direction. Okay. I have to figure out a way to... Nope. Dang it. I'm just going to go this time. He was very slumped in a direction that made no sense for how bodies work. But... Alright. This just confirms
that's
my...
the way.
Yeah. Confirms my decision that I need to get some wireless headphones so that I could do this more efficiently without the cord problem.
These are technically wireless enabled, but only through Bluetooth, so I don't bother with it, because having these go out mid-podcast would be annoying. but I don't have a dog chewing on this shit, so.
Yeah, that's.
Also, it allows me to take part in our weird movie nights where I watch movies on a little tablet and have this to hear that without doing what most people on our group chats do, which is just point the microphone at the speaker so that you just get like 3 different like tenors of the same line. The other night, one of the people on the call was having a bathroom like drilled out and refinished.
Ooh.
They did eventually mute their feed for a bit, but it's just like it sounds like watching a movie next to construction, and it's interesting. Oh, so off the topic of whatever the fuck we were talking about, so we had another cyber birthday. So this is cyber birthday 3 of the COVID year, and I assume yours is coming up because of course you would cyber birthday. I mean, who wouldn't?
Of course.
So this cyber birthday, we tested out having a Twitch birthday with a Skype like conversation, which basically meant that I had a ghost playing Skyrim in the living room for like 8 hours, which is honestly a pretty decent way to have background stuff going on and keep the birthday person involved, is just to hand them a controller and then everybody sees the dumb shit they're doing in a video game. I would recommend that for people. You don't have a PlayStation, but if you had something to stream on, that would be a really good way to make everybody bear witness to your like farming expertise in Don't Starve or something. Just you on a group chat while a little character runs around everybody's TV trying not to die from spiders. Seems like a pretty good option.
That would be pretty good, actually. That's a pretty good birthday idea. I would love to have an in-game Don't Starve birthday and make everybody show up, and we'll see who survives the longest, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, something like that would be good. I would have to pick a character that wasn't what it was.
What was your go-to? Were you Spider-Man? What's his name?
I think so. I just remember, so when we played Don't Starve together, I had only played the Don't Starve single player. And I didn't realize that there was a completely different progression built into Don't Starve Together. So I had a level 0 character, essentially. But I also had I feel like it was the spider, right?
I think so.
But I ended up with like so little ability, because the downside to farming is that the area around the farm usually gets strip mined to a degree. So when I showed up, it was basically like, okay, now build a pickaxe. And I was like, oh no. So unless I left and started a new game and then came back with some equipment, it wasn't going to work for that particular run. I would like to try that again in the future, though. If people haven't played Don't Starve and they like survival of any kind, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one. It is weird to just jump into another person's game, though. I haven't had much success with that, just jumping into people's servers, but
I don't know, like most of that kind of stuff I've done in the past has been like Minecraft and things where like it's much easier to just go off in a direction. I think I've mentioned it before, but my Minecraft with a group was my good friend's brother had like a group that he was doing Minecraft with, and I showed up, and it was a server that was already started, and they had built like a weird little castle town almost. Like, it was very built. And there was a train that went way off into the distance and had like fully operational tracks and all that shit. And I showed up as like level nothing, like wearing the like clothing you start with and stuff. So I ran off into the woods. Basically, I walked down the train tracks till I found a spot that I saw like cows in or something. And then I ran off into the woods and built a horrifying like shed with like the ground around the shed I turned into one layer of glass blocks. And then underneath it, I poured full of lava. So it was just this weird glowing horrible shed that was like in a forest. It wasn't like in a clearing. And then I built like straight down and made extremely uncomfortable caverns underneath. So whenever I would sign in, I would get messages in the general chat that were like, oh, that guy's here. And then people would be like, do you know where he is? And then every once in a while, somebody would like stumble into this weird shed and not know what the fuck was happening. And it was exactly the way that I want to play Minecraft.
That sounds like the best way to play Minecraft. It's been a long time since I played it, but that is fun.
Basically, just having an NPC that is played by a human is my goal in a video game. Speaking of video games, actually, I should finish that Cyber Birthday story.
Oh, yes.
Playing Skyrim, which is like a decade-old game at this point, and seeing somebody and how they play it is very funny to me. We also picked up like 5 or so extra viewers as we were doing it.
Oh, really?
And towards the end, like, people had been watching for hours already. Somebody was like, what level are you? And then she went to the level screen and back, and she was like level 4 or something. And then like 3 or 4 people just left instantly. I don't even know what that means. It was very funny to me. And I don't know, Twitch has a lot of problems, but Twitch is a good place for weird shit like that. In the future, I really think once we have the ability to, that is a good place for us to do some between podcast business.
Yeah.
Our dumb survival games can be witnessed by others at some point.
I would love to do that. I actually, for my birthday, I think I'm gonna get Evan's help in possibly building a computer that could actually do that.
Oh yeah, I'm very into that.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun because I do unfortunately play too much video games, so it might be time to invest in a computer that can actually do it without like becoming too hot that I can't touch it.
A computer that is also not the computer that you do everything else on, so that it's maybe a little bit more secure, that you will have your means of getting paid.
Yeah, that helps too. That's nice.
I actually I don't do a lot of computer gaming lately just because I have a laptop for the time being, so like that's not really the best option for it. But I have a few things, and I have Steam, but like Steam is such a fucking untrustworthy program to have on a computer for like sync. Like all of your heat and stuff gets fucking used up by that. As soon as I flip Steam on, my disk usage like shoots from like 10% to 100. But the good old games, they have like a Steam equivalent that's basically just it's more of a front end and less of a store. You can have your stuff updated, but like it's not intensive. That thing's been great, and I only have like 8 games, I think, on the GOG store over like all the years it's existed. But I have the original Diablo and its expansion, so I've been playing that a little bit in the last week or so. And if people like games from the early to mid 90s, that's maybe the best one. That's probably in the running of games that I would force people to watch for a birthday game along.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good one.
Also, if we get Twitch stuff set up, I would really like to make people watch me build settlements in Fallout 4, because they added a new thing in which you can go into a virtual reality for like 4 different locations, and they've just unlocked the build limits and the build requirements, so you can just build whatever. And I think showing off the process that I go through with that kind of trash would be both horrifying and interesting to a lot of people.
I would definitely watch that.
Mm-hmm.
I like watching people not play video games the way they were intended to be played.
That is my favorite way to play and watch video games.
Yeah.
Another video game related thing, I set up a USB stick as a RetroPie mount, and now I have a lot of the PlayStation games that I had access to, and then other ones that like I had played with friends. I have like 62, I think, on this thumbstick. And the RetroPie mount means that I run it off the stick, so I'm not taking up the space in the actual computer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have like, it's like 300 and some Game Boy Color games. So I've made... so the thing that I found out in doing this is that Game Boy Color and PlayStation 1 happened at the same time. So if you go to a full list, you have like, here's the Game Boy Color and the PlayStation 1 version of, let's say, Buzz Lightyear video game. And it's super weird, like, even being somebody who has paid a lot of attention to video games, thinking about the crossover between Game Boy Color and PlayStation 1, because they're so different. But like, they have Tomb Raider on both. They have the same game library for like all the sports on both. Like, there's tons of ports of PlayStation things on Game Boy Color. So it's a really interesting like set of things to look through. They have an Animorphs game on both. Like, just shit that you would not ever think about.
That's pretty good. I want to see that.
And that's the thing, is if I can, I wouldn't be able to use the RetroPie because I don't have like streaming equipment, but I do have access to that stuff through a computer, and it's low intensity enough that I could potentially Twitch some of that stuff out as well, which would be a lot of fun. Some of that stuff is fucking bonkers. Like, Game Boy Color is the point where people were sick of having a low power handheld, but they knew they wanted something to play.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in color, and some of those games are like 1.5 megs, which doesn't sound like anything, but most Game Boy games were like 200K. So they're making games that are like 10 plus times the amount of like space that a lot of Game Boy games were, and trying to make these big 3D games into smaller games, and it's a mess. So like all of that stuff is just, here's like NBA 2K1 on Game Boy Color, and you have these things that look like shitty marionettes, but they're like trying to put voice into it and trying to like make it really vividly colored, and it just looks like crap. It's great. I'm not even a sports fan, but sports games on Game Boy Color are very funny. That sounded like a dog hitting a bone or something.
That was shaking.
Oh.
The ears flapping.
Oh, it was one of those.
Yeah.
Also, something that people started doing a lot of when Game Boy Color happened, they hadn't gotten to Game Boy Advance, which is where games actually were like getting good again, but they were done with Game Boy. So Game Boy Color had like these intricate portraits of like people for a lot of their screens, like their start screens. Like Ken Griffey Jr. lovingly recreated in like 8 colors on a Game Boy Color is the craziest shit. Because somebody sat there for like a day and made this perfect. And it's nothing. It's like nobody will ever look at this and care. It really makes me want to do a painting series of that. But at the same time, it would just look like kind of lackluster portraits, and I don't think it would matter. There's no way to really tell people about it without showing it to them, and that would be a nice Twitch stream to do. Do a Sour Buddies shitty historian hour where I just take people through like, hey, did you guys know there's 5 Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen Game Boy Color games?
Wait, really? Oh my God.
Yeah. One of them is just
so many.
one of them is just a digital calendar, and that's it. It's like it's a planner book in a Game Boy. Why would you need that? The Game Boy Color didn't even have backlighting. You can't see it unless you're in the sun. Like, it's the worst idea ever, but they did it.
That I think I need to see that.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. In the future, expect us to do more dumb video game related stuff. It'll either be to the tune of The End of the World or to the tune of working hard to save it. So it's always a good time to play video games in our generations.
In either of those timelines, I think video games are very necessary. So, yeah, that sounds good. Oh, good. We have more dogs on couches. I don't think you'll be able to see that one.
Dog show. Oh, that one's very visible. Now there's 3 boy pictures.
What?
Why is it so hot today? It's stupid.
I'm suffering from the opposite problem. I'm used to there not being air conditioning in places.
Oh, you got the air conditioning chills.
Now I'm just cold. Yeah. And if I open the door, then it's hot. So there's no right answer.
Yeah. That when I was in Hawaii, the place that we stayed in had a air conditioner set to like 65 degrees, and it was perfect, but it was also like 65 degrees is like perfect temperature for me, like 60 or 65. And if you go outside, even though it was winter, it was like 85. So when we came back inside, it would be like ice cold for the first few minutes that we were in there before we like acclimated. It was really weird. I don't know. I would still say Hawaii's got some of the better climate because it is wet there, and I can't handle dry heat. A lot of people say wet heat's worse, but those people are wrong. Or lizards. I don't know. Have it. Also, I don't sweat very much, so having something to make my skin slightly damp so that I can actually cool myself off is very helpful.
You don't just stick your tongue out and like breathe really hard.
It's. I have enough trouble dating as it is. That's really not going to help. My life in Arizona would be the worst. After going to Phoenix and seeing what that's like, no thank you.
Is it Arizona or is it New Mexico that has like a lot of cases right now? It's New Mexico, isn't it?
I think so, because I think Arizona actually was relatively quick on a mask order. Because they saw a surge so quickly, I think they did okay with it. Speaking of politics for a second, this isn't a long topic. Well, politics are, but this isn't. I was reading a thing in... what's it called? Oh, we got a cat shake on the couch. It's man, I don't remember where the article's from. Oh well, we're not a news show. Anyway, they broke down the pricing structure of getting voter information, like voter data for like what areas need the most like advertisement and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The prices in Florida were broken down, and in order for progressive candidates to get that information from the Democrat like established segment of like the politicians there, it could cost upwards of like $3,500, and then it was like another $10,000 in order to like just get your like actual campaign like up and running. And people were trying to say like, we need to, this is like upfront cost. We need to like not be trying to make money and maybe try to get people into office so we can have the correct people like pushing for things. But it's really frustrating reading about like how expensive it is for people who like if you took somebody like AOC who worked at a bar, she I'm sure has more money than like we do, but she's not rich. Like part of the Act Blue stuff coming into favor was that they helped people like her get enough money to actually run. I kind of thought the whole point of running and getting like money infused into it was so that you had the ability to actually like continue advertising and do all that. But apparently the startup cost of running a campaign is also several $1,000s. So like poorer people who might be really good fits for the like legislature of a state aren't allowed to do it because the fucking Democrats won't let them. Which I know there's plenty of structure. Like I feel like if I said this to anybody who is extremely centrist or just disagrees with me already, the answer would be, well, of course there's costs. There's always costs, but like shouldn't there be some sort of like, I don't know, some sort of policy based or like good candidate based way of doing this? And from the sound of it, there are hundreds of people who are looking at running for different districts throughout like Florida who are more progressive, and very few people can afford to even start running, which is frustrating. Like if you imagine us having a potentially blue Florida, a potentially blue Texas, a potentially blue Arizona, like all these places that are like not necessarily the end of voting or anything, but like would represent people's will a little bit as opposed to wealthy, like just let's keep business doing exactly what we want it to do for us. That would make a huge difference. Like maybe the president wouldn't be able to just veto everything and have an entire section of like having the Senate just there to say, no, it's fine, he can do whatever, is why shit is so bad. Like, that's why even if we end up with a President Biden, that could mean nothing, and we could end up with another, like, President Cotton or something after that that is way worse again. Like, I don't know. Democrats being assholes is really coming to the forefront of a lot of this shit in a way that I don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it is really disappointing that there's not less, I guess, bars for or a less what am I trying to say? A less bar to entry for
Barrier?
people who want to, but yes, thank you. Barrier to entry for people who want to run and don't necessarily have the money to do that, because I'm sure those people and the interests that they would represent are probably more representative of people.
Yeah,
than,
typically people that don't have a lot of extra money have a lot more information about the actual needs of people. Like, most people don't have a lot of money, so maybe thinking like those people is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You would think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head the names of who these people are, but I think my favorite stories of when I hear people getting elected is when they pretty much run on a single issue because of something that happened to them or like their family, and they
Right.
just become really passionate about that issue. And like, why would we not try and make it so there's more people like that who can actually represent, where they're from?
Even Sanders, who is like, compared to most like progressives, fairly like, I don't know, closer to centrist than a lot of progressives, and he did the time of living in a literally dirt floor shack, listening to dogs yelling, and and ultimately, like, that gives you more perspective.
Oh, you're in podcast?
Back from work. Yes. Hello.
I want a cigarette.
Hey, why did you let him come in here without a beer and a cigarette ready? I thought that you guys were like trying to make this house situation work.
I know, I'm really lacking on my duties here. Oh man, they're all awake now, and they're all just dispersed around the dining room.
Can I make a request that you guys add Evan's illustrious beard to that portrait behind you?
Oh yes, I think there does need to be a more updated image than this with a beard on it.
The beard is really a pretty fantastic addition, I think.
You doing okay?
Yeah. Oh, I have a story about one of the dogs, but I think I'll save it as a bonus story for another time.
Okay.
Jesus. Are you hearing this?
Is that the sound of eating or drinking?
Drinking, I think.
That's some enthusiastic business, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's Tilly. Tilly's old. Oh, and here, I'll show you a picture of Tilly. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Evan's mom gets professional photos done of only 2 of the dogs, but they're like, I'll get it so you can see this.
Here's some getting the dog picture music. Is it discordant enough?
Very good. This is Tilly.
Oh, is that Tilly's graduation portrait?
2017 graduate. We're very proud of
Ooh.
her. Yep. I really like it. Actually, I just noticed you can kind of see in the bottom of this their hands holding Tilly in place.
Uh-huh. That's very good.
It's very photogenic.
I also appreciate when Evan went through a sliding door? You can see the reflection in the TV of that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yep.
It's got a nice sense of space with the setup you've got going.
You have a good, 360 almost
I
view.
wonder, will this reflect the fish off the television?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
I
it
do
will.
see.
See, that's what I see.
Can you watch them because they've been digging this morning?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Go back inside.
Barry is really afraid of Evan for some reason.
Yo, Leo, come on.
Dogs sometimes pick a gender they're okay with.
I think that's exactly how
I've
he
also
operates.
had dogs be scared of me when I've had a beard, and I've also had dogs be scared of me when I've had a hat on. And all of those things could happen. Yeah.
Mask, beard, and hat at the same time.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
You just need to give him some dark sunglasses, and then it'll confuse the dogs entirely.
And just have him talk in as deep a voice as he possibly can.
Hello, dogs! That's more of a villain voice than a deep voice, but... Welcome to die!
Yeah, I think Barry would love that. Uh-huh. Oh, God.
I sent you that dancing parrot this week, right?
Dancing parent.
Parrot.
Oh,
Wait,
yes.
Sorry, cockatoo.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
That was very good. I think cockatoos are my favorite of the birds.
That image is what I think of with environmental protections now. This is why it's important that we pay attention to our animal neighbors.
I don't even care if we make it. I just care that the... Can you... I don't even know what they're doing.
Dogs are so smart.
Hi, Tilly. God. I think the dumbest one is the pug. She's by
That
far.
sounds right. That's
Yeah.
Daisy, right?
Yeah, her name is Daisy.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
It does make me want to paint the stupid face that pugs have, though. It's like if you could make... Well, if we end up doing our Pokemon podcast, we can talk more about this, but I feel like a pug face looks like melted ice cream. Like, there's just something about it that is hard to deal with in terms of, like, structure.
Yeah, I'm very put off by pug faces generally.
It's like if you took a regular dog and you threw it at the speed of sound just forward like a missile, its face would turn into what a pug face is.
That's what it would do.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. You want to stop, please?
They won't.
Hey,
DOGCAST.
stop. This has become the DOGCAST. They're very wound up. Hey, it's Barry. Barry's being a problem.
Did you have a longer topic that you had wanted to talk about?
I don't think it'll be a very long topic, but I did attempt something. This was the same day that I drank a lot of the sake, but I was in a Discord server with some friends, and we were looking at photos of K-pop people, and I can't remember the specific names. I'm not very in the K-pop world, but
if it's not SMAP Birdman, then I don't care.
Okay, I don't think it was. But I was talking to a friend, and he was mentioning how he had seen like K beauty routines where instead of using an eyelash curler, they had used like a not a dowel, but like a skewer almost, and then they would, like heat it up with a lighter, and then press it to their eyelashes to curl them. So, returning to our theme of what could go wrong.
1 second.
Okay.
What could go wrong is I think somebody knocked on the door. Hold on a second.
Interesting. Hey. Stop. You're being insane. Stop it. Hi. I won't mess with you, Tilly. You mean business. Ah. I was about to start singing the Surrounded by Pugs blues. Because I won't stop. And I can't put them out because then they'll escape.
The good news is that can be our ending theme now.
Okay, good. I'm sure it will be. Who was there a person?
No, somebody is either working on something in the apartment, like near us, or that was Nick banging on something in his room.
Okay.
But it sounded exactly like a knock, so who knows? I'm just gonna ignore it and not worry about it. All right, so
that's what
sorry
I'm doing
for the
this
interruption.
General situation. Okay, so I had heard about a technique with a wooden stick that you put it on fire, and then you put it out, and then you press it to your eyelashes to curl them. And apparently that's something they do.
Seems like a bad idea, but go ahead. You know eyelashes melt, right? Like,
well, they did it. Like, I watched videos of people doing it, so I don't know. Like, there must have been a longer amount of time that they let it cool off, because I tried it.
Yeah.
And I burnt half my eyelashes off on this one. You can't really tell because I have... Stop! I have a lot of layers of mascara going on so that you can't really tell. But, like, it's definitely... They're short.
I find it to be fairly stylish. So does that mean you started on the inside? Because it looks like it's these that are gone, not
Yeah.
the...
I started like in the middle of my lashes, and I just pressed it like it wasn't on fire for that, and I like put it out, and
Yeah.
I was like touching it, so it didn't seem hot enough to burn me. But I pressed it to my lashes, and they immediately like curled and fell off. So I don't know. Hey, thanks for
I mean,
stopping.
also, there was more knocking. Who knows? I like how weird beauty tips get, but oftentimes they seem like a trick.
Yeah, that seems particular. Hey! Hi! Hey, Leo. Please stop, Leo. Oh my god. There are too many boy dogs. They just keep running up and down the stairs. Oh my god. Hey, hi. I'll pet you if it means you'll chill the fuck out. Can you please? I'm gonna get bit. Hi, Leo. Hello, doggies. We're being so quiet now. Yay. I hate you all.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my K-beauty store.
That sounds like babysitting dogs to me.
Yep.
I'm,
There's only 5 of
I'm,
them.
I'm so glad that this apartment building doesn't allow pets. I was talking with Nick just recently about like how it's not really fair that you don't allow pets in a building. That was where he was coming from, and I agree in terms of like I also think there shouldn't be landlords. I think that housing at this point needs to be treated like it can still be based on your abilities, or it can still be based on your need. You can still earn your way into better places by having better paying things, but having individual landlords that get to say how that works and then basically get money for existing, which is garbage.
Yeah.
I think that we should not have landlords anymore. It should be a government thing, and through something like that, having things like pets should just be considered part of the deal. If you have pets, part of the money that goes into housing people is making sure that they're clean when people leave. Like, that's just something that needs to be standardized. But instead we end up with like places that won't allow dogs for the sole purpose of we don't want to clean it, and I think that's garbage. But I recognize that I disagree with this on a base level, but I love that we can't have dogs here. Like, the amount of like not shit everywhere and like people not barking around, I'm fine with it. I will still argue for it to change if we have the ability to, but the benefit from it is noticeable for me. Also, guaranteed Nick would have like a Havanese immediately if we could have pets. And one, he can't. He cannot take care of a dog and do the other things in his life. Two, ADHD is not a dog's friend, I don't feel like.
Yeah, probably not so much, but
who knows though? I think everybody should be able to hang out with the kinds of animals they want to, even if those animals are, say, I don't know, as long as they aren't something like a tiger. We can go ahead and let those exist on their own. Just brings me back to like, oh yeah, I don't have either of my legs, but it's not from the tigers.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I agree that people should have the option. That shouldn't be up to a landlord person.
Right.
And also, yeah, that landlord shouldn't exist, but
it's almost like that would get rid of a lot of the issues with things like redlining instantaneously. Almost. Like that.
You know.
You can make laws that are required to be respected by the government without having to go through other people and make things that are utilities just work. Sort of the same way that you could still have clean water in Flint if it weren't for private industry coming in and saying, let's just switch where we get the water from and fuck them. And then acting like, no, the Democrats did that. I'm not even into defending Democrats, but it was like a couple of rich white businessmen who did that shit. And now people still... So a mutual friend of ours sent me a meme this week asking me to explain it. And it was fucking Ilhan Omar and AOC smiling and pointing, and then a picture of like a street in like I don't know, Vietnam or something that's got a lot of stuff in it and no people, and it's like finally feels like home or whatever. Apparently it was being sent around by like family members or something, and the message I got with it was, I think this is bad or racist, but I don't know what it means. And it's like, yeah, yeah.
That's good.
Keeping in mind that like the issues like Flint and stuff like that are why people like Ilhan Omar even had the like sense of purpose to work their way into politics, because clearly things weren't going to get any better and were only going to get worse without representation. And coming from an area like Flint, where it is mostly non-white and largely Muslim from like how population has distributed, which again, if we didn't have landlords, wouldn't have to be the case. That kind of shit needs people to actually care about it. And then I talk to my centrist family, and they may as well have the same opinions as that stupid meme. So, I don't know. Talk to your family.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. It is difficult, but I think I'm starting to get to a point where I'm like, I'm going to have these opinions and these beliefs for the rest of my life, so they might as well come to terms with the fact that this is the person I am now, as opposed to just, like, avoiding the topic of everything. Like, I think at this point in my family, it's kind of, like, funny that Madison doesn't believe anything that we believe.
Right.
But it's not taken very seriously, which fine, whatever, but
exactly. Yeah, that's the attitude.
Yeah, like I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I think maybe the not that I'm trying to confront people about things, but the route of being just non-confrontational and trying to avoid all sort of like argument or disagreement at any point is like that seems pretty not worth it anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to reach across the aisle if the thing that you get back is somebody putting a Bible in your hand. That doesn't mean anything to a larger conversation. It's nice that you're religious, but that's not politics, or it shouldn't be. And that's, I don't know. I started off frustrated about that when I spent time joining friends in summer school and shit like that, and then realizing, or Sunday school, and then realizing that, oh yeah, religion is stupid. Now that's an opinion, but it's also like where I stand on it. Like, it's great for social things, it's great for people, it's not for me, and it's not for politics, and it's definitely not for making policy on. And now that's what it's used for predominantly. I don't see a lot of people talking about like the morality of having a bunch of hospitals downtown in like Seattle or something like that, or not hospitals, a bunch of churches like in the main part of Seattle. Like there isn't a lot of talk about like how that land is used or like what we need, but there's a lot of talk about like, well, why should we allow this this like homeless shelter to be here? Like this is a problem. We don't want this here. And last time I checked, things like the homeless population were something we shirked off to religious organizations early on in the promise that they were going to help people. And now we're not criticizing anything that they've done with that kind of stuff, but we are acting like they fixed it or acting like they helped and still demonizing the homeless. So like they failed at the things that they were trying to even prove their worth with in the first place. We shouldn't give them a pass on like just existing and being uncriticized. Like if they're going to criticize like the LGBT community, then we should also be saying the LGBT community should have protected status. Maybe they shouldn't be paying taxes then. They're a group of people that believe a certain thing. Like, I don't know. It's crazy to me that we give the kind of allowances to churches that we do and the political power to churches that we do. It just seems like it's completely turned into the Christian church being a branch of white supremacy, even though that's clearly not the intention. And there's nobody who's going to listen to me talk about that outside of this podcast and not give me shit, and probably people in this podcast who would give me shit. And at the same time, like, that's something we need to like talk about as a country eventually. Like there's a real problem with being a religious state, and that dog agrees.
I think he does. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think I don't see myself ever returning to any form of the like opinions I used to have when I was like 10.
Right.
Because that's what happens. Is you learn things. Yeah, like there's really no point in avoiding the topics because they're going to come up at some point, and I don't know, like yeah.
But then you could be like all the people commenting hallelujah on Dr. Bridges. And wouldn't that be a nice community to be in? Yes, I too believe in the tall man with the big Bible.
Oh boy. Yeah. What one thing I found super interesting is like this kind of new wave of Christianity, I guess, of like the trendy mega churches that are happening, like the one in Kirkland and like LA, with like Justin Bieber goes here, so do the Kardashian. Like, I find that so interesting just to watch that unfold and like observe it, because like you were just saying, we kind of entrusted churches with a lot of the social responsibilities that they say that they didn't want the government to be in charge of, and clearly that works out so well.
Jesus, would you fix Justin Bieber for us, please?
Oh, I don't know.
Also, I don't know how you can look at somebody like Justin Bieber, like full dick pictures or not. Like, I understand it's a young person who got very famous and sort of ruined their social structure early. But it's not a good bow, but you know. I'm not good at doing this on wedding invitations either. If anybody gets bows on wedding invitations, it takes me fucking hours to get that shit done because, like, it's just not my forte. Anyway, Justin Bieber moving into a church and then becoming way crazier should be a good look for people to say, maybe that's not a great plan. But instead, it seems like most people are like, well, he found Jesus, so he's good now. We'll see when he's
Or-
like in rehab in a year or two. I don't know.
I mean, I don't even care. I truly could not ever care what church Justin Bieber goes to, but the fact that that's like the only thing your church is known for, I mean, maybe says a lot about it. Or the fact that, oh, the Kardashians go to your church? That's, wow. Wow.
Well,
Oh,
soon
God.
enough, the Kardashians will be going to Kanye West's church compound, right? So that won't even matter.
I hate everything so much. Evan has retired to his bedchambers.
Excuse me. I've retired.
Hi. I don't want you up here. Nuh-uh. There's something chilling about looking into the eyes of a pug.
Yeah, they have a way about them. Yeah, exactly. They're like,
The eyes are like somehow kind of going two slightly different directions.
yeah, it's a little bit off.
There's something there you don't want to look at. I don't know.
The space between is where you have to avoid.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway. And that's that on failed K-beauty routines, I guess.
Oh yeah. I guess that's fair. Did I tell you about it wasn't long ago, it was like maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I was in the Central District in Seattle at a party place, and they had a Justin Bieber section still.
Really?
And it was just like these old, never sold, like Justin Bieber, like birthday party paper plates, Justin Bieber cups. Like, it was crazy how much stuff they had. If I had more money at the time, I definitely would have been like, I can drop like $15 on some stuff that I'll use eventually.
Uh-huh.
But I did not have that money when I was there, unfortunately. But it's still out there. People still want it, I guess.
Hey, it's gonna be worth something someday, no matter what he does. Probably, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
People are speaking of it's gonna be worth something someday. People are going to Disney World and buying like all the Splash Mountain merch and reselling it for hundreds of dollars because they're gonna stop making it.
That sucks. Oh, I gotta have these country bears. How am I gonna think about this Tar Baby story if I don't have this stuff? If I could get a Tar Baby stuffed animal just to have it to prove to like a future generation, this is what we did. This was at Disneyland.
This was an amusement park.
An amusement park talked about this. Do you like the United States still?
It's a magical place. It's the most magical place. Oh my goodness. Please stop.
I'll be honest. Little bits of the dog sounds a little bit like Evan talking upstairs. When it's quiet enough, it just sounds like in a weird way. It's like kind of hard to tell.
It could be. Maybe it's just him muttering to himself. Hey, Barry, Daisy, Leo. Knock that shit off, please.
Shut the fuck up, please.
Yeah, it actually worked.
I'll have more information on this next week, but I'm trying to get a thing together to send with my stepmom when she goes back south towards where my parents live, because she's like doing her job in, I want to say Renton or something. See if I can get a contactless handoff. If she's too far away, probably not. But anyway, so I've been trying to figure out for years a way to get my dad something he can play video game wise. And I had this big plan that I was going to try and set up a handheld system for him, essentially. I was looking at it was like a GT 250 or something like that. It's a type of all-in-one emulation system that you can get with even an aluminum case, which would maybe help keep it from getting chewed on by dogs or something. And a screen that's good size and good quality. But he doesn't want anything that is handheld, which is kind of too bad. So I figured out the cheapest way to get him something for the TV, and I'm going to be setting that up over the course of this week. My unemployment's going to be a big part of this week because my work this last week's work topped out at like 5 hours. And this week might be slightly less. So I'm not psyched about it, but I get paid less from work than I do in the money that is made up to get me to a livable wage from unemployment right now. So it's not like that matters a lot, but I want to make sure that I'm at least keeping my part of work running. And in any case, the other time of the week that isn't spent with painting or mail that I'm sending or Animal Crossing while Nick's here or any of that stuff, I'm setting up a European SNES Classic that's been refurbished, and they're too hard to get a hold of. I finally found one that was price effective, but still for $40 more than I would have gotten a system that's this big that would have had like 3,000 games on it. But it's not the easiest thing to use, and I know that my dad's enjoyment is not really gonna match up with that. Plus, he's not gonna really want to play fucking specky games or fucking Amstrad games or something, old systems that nobody's fucking heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, this just has 21 of the most popular, 20 of the most popular Super NES games, and then Star Fox 2 added to it. So I'm trying to set that up with a wireless controller because the controller cords on the classics are this long, so that he can play it with sitting at a chair across the room or whatever.
Yeah.
So that'll be part of my adventure for this week. In addition to my setting up, the other thing about that thing that I was looking at, which someday I might actually get one for me, it plays PlayStation 1 ISOs better than anything. So it's it basically is the handheld PlayStation system that people have wanted forever, even though PlayStation games, PlayStation 1 games, are garbage. Some of them are pretty cool. So in any case, that's Nerd Corner. But you know what else is Nerd Corner is Tasty Tester Tales. And I do have one that I wanted to throw out there while we're here. Today's Tasty Tester Tales, 3 T's for short. 3 T's.
That's awesome.
So at a certain point working at Nintendo as a tester, if you haven't listened to the other ones, I worked at Nintendo as a tester. So I started moving up in managerial spots, not high management, but mid management, which I didn't really want to do. But if you are able to be both a human being and do work around video games, they move you up pretty quick. So I was pretty much every job after my third one, I started slowly moving up. And I think it was also helped by the fact that a guy who I'm still friends, though I don't see him, friends online with, who does a Twitch channel and stuff like that. FC Racer. If you look on YouTube, you can find his playthroughs. He's pretty cool. But he was my like mid-level boss when I started there, and he's really cool. But I looked at what he was doing and couldn't really figure out like how do you get to do that stuff? Because like he's reporting to like the guy who's running the entire game that we're working on, like, and he's in that group of people who actually get their name into the credits and stuff like that. A lot of testers don't. Even when you see a list of testers at the bottom of a game's credits, that's not the tester list usually. That's the middle management of testers. So I was kind of interested in trying to get to that point, but I also was like, I don't know, you work with testers, you start to realize pretty quickly, I don't want to tell these people what to do and be more a part of their whole deal than I am already. This job was a good example of that, as I'd been there for a while and was starting to like have that position. So I was reporting like to the head of this project, and I was one of two people who was like a lead essentially on this thing. It's very strange, the whole process for that. You get called into a room with somebody who works above the head of the tester department, and they tell you, they basically act like you're going to prison. Like they read out like a list of all the things you've done, and then they're like, so we think you'd be really good for like being higher up on the chain and like managing people. And at the time, I had two of these appointments in quick succession, because the first one they brought me in for, I was like, I don't think I'd be good at that. And they were like, well, don't say no yet. Let's just have you think about it for a week, and then we'll see. At the second interview I did, I was again kind of like, I mean, I'm not socially, I don't like telling people what to do unless I really care about it. And to be honest, when I'm like dealing with translations and stuff, I like bad video games. So I lean towards thinking that things are interesting instead of important. And then like a week later, I was put in that position on a job anyway.
Oh.
So it was just sort of like, no, you're managing this now. And so I started managing, like middle managing this project, and it was called Project Hexagon. Which I get this like this assignment paper. You essentially get like military orders, it feels like, when you get a new project and you're working at like Nintendo or one of those. So it just says like, I get this email that's like, welcome to Project Hexagon. And what it turns out to be, again, these are old, like over a console ago during the Wii U, so like who cares? If they're really upset about me saying this stuff, I'll stop talking about it, but nobody's gonna care. Nobody plays a Wii U anymore except me, because I'm an idiot. So there's a cat dog on your couch. I get to this project, and it turns out that Project Hexagon is yeah, good. It turns out that Project Hexagon is, have you ever seen the Wii balance board?
Yeah.
So the idea was, what if we take the Wii balance board and we have the special it was like a special contract with Google, and we make it so that you can use Google Street to walk around where you want to go.
Oh. Okay.
Which is like kind of interesting, and also like, you know what those maps look like close up, right? So a lot of that project, because I was managing stuff, was not me doing that. It was me checking other people's work on that. While I sit at the end of this aisle and I look down, and there's just a bunch of like weird nerds sitting there looking at a screen, like doing this, and like you'll just see this like crazy looking like bad map moving around them. And like it was kind of a surreal project. It wasn't super long, but it was very like, okay, sure. And the base of this story is also not going where you think it is, but I'm setting up the project more because that's actually interesting. So one of the things that was new when we were doing that was Google was starting to do more interiors. So they were getting deals with businesses and then walking into businesses with a stick with a camera on the top and doing three-dimensional renderings of the inside of a business so you could like go inside. And that was something that we were also testing. So we had like honestly, it felt like a Google project more than a Nintendo project. It was very strange, but we ended up doing things like going downtown in Seattle and walking into like hairdressers and stuff and like looking around. And there would always like, first off, the Google end of it would have to like check and make sure that people's faces were removed. And that wasn't always the data we got. So you would sometimes just be looking around. It's like, there's just people in here. Like I'm just looking at pictures of people that they definitely didn't say okay to. So that's weird already. And you would like lean on the board and it would like like look around the room. And one of the things that I think we were doing was like walking around Paris and all this stuff. Very weird, very like when you consider that like part of the point of testing that stuff is that you do it on as many TVs and setups as possible to see if it breaks. There would be a lot of weird shit happening where it's just like, for whatever reason, this TV does not give us the right like image ratio or something, and we'd have to figure that shit out. Anyway, so all this stuff is happening, and it's a very strange, like my reporting is at the end of the day, and it's just like, Jeff looked at stuff in Japan. Like, I guess he's hitting his marks, but like, what are we doing? Was basically like every email I would be sending to the actual like leader of this project. And then it started turning into an issue for me because I don't like, so I both have a issue with having like a piece of plastic in my soft tissue somewhere. I've mentioned it before, but I also have a pretty like sensitive smell. So like thankfully I don't hate a lot of smells, but I tend to have a very acute sense of smell. And I started noticing that there was this weird smell whenever I was on this project. And like it's easy, like a lot of people come in and it's like sort of weird hours and stuff like that. And the people that do this job are a mix of just kind of nerdy people like me and then like troll people. We had a bathroom issue that I will save because it's a whole other story.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's a bad one. So I start coming in and there's this weird smell and it's a little different each day, but it's just like, I don't know what this is, but I hate it. And other people didn't seem bothered by it most of the time, but other people also like, I'm gonna say had different standards. So and I noticed there's this one dude who, you know how some people, you can tell that they don't shower because their hair is kind of greasy or something. This guy had the thing where not only was his hair kind of greasy, but you could tell like, so there's skin flakes, not like dandruff, but like skin flakes that just naturally get washed away when you bathe. Like that's a part of what your body does, and most people don't ever see like if you don't bathe for long enough, you almost get like like you're recovering from a sunburn look. And he just had that. And because I had to go talk to everybody every day, like go talk, like stand behind somebody's desk like I'm in fucking Office Space and be like, hey, what are you doing? Like that was part of my job. So I have to get close to this guy every day. And I start realizing he's the smell in this area.
Oh.
I sit like 6 desks away from him and it's like bothering me daily.
Oh, no.
And then finally, this thankfully was not a very long project. Finally, one day, I noticed that if I got any closer to where he was, it just smelled like somebody had poured like feta cheese into a dumpster, and like he smelled like the garbage can outside of a Hirosuri or something, where it was just like, I can't even deal with this. Like, what has happened? And the weirdest part is that, so I don't want to complain about anybody, but it's one of those things where it's like, I need to talk to like my boss and be like, okay, I know that we have like a code of conduct that includes hygiene because people are trash here. What is the limit on that? Because like nobody's technically complaining except me, and I'm not gonna like make this a big deal, but I can't just not mention it because it's like it's a thing. There's a radius around this guy that is bad, and from the sound, like he kind of said, like, I'm not really sure what to do about that either, because usually we base that off if people are complaining about it, and nobody else has said anything right now. And he kind of like didn't talk about it again for the next couple days, and then all of a sudden that guy showed up and was like in a different shirt, and there wasn't a smell that was quite as bad. So I think somebody was like, hey man, do you want to take a shower or something? But holy shit, like that stereotype of disgusting people in testing is overblown, but the stereotype of like people not being aware of themselves is very true. Thankfully, that all resolved without anybody ever seeming to have a problem. But it was one of those things where it was just like, I've been around people who are homeless just by virtue of being at a lot of places where homeless people are, because that's when you don't have a lot of money and you need to like travel around, and like you do stuff in the city, like I usually do stuff going to art and things like that. You're around a lot of like homeless populations and stuff, because lower values of property is where all the galleries are, and it's where all of the like places are where you can afford to be artists and also get together. Mm-hmm. And you kind of start to over time realize that like there is a homeless community. It's not just a bunch of people who aren't good people or whatever. And being around those like specific areas, you realize that like when you can't take care of yourself as much, there is like, you can tell. However, people who had to fight to be able to like take a shower were twice as clean as this guy, and I don't know how that happens. It seems impossible to me.
That is troubling. I think the job I would least like to do out of any of these is the person who has to go tell him that he smells bad.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible. I would not want to do that.
I think I was one level of management away from being that person, and I'm glad that I wasn't there.
You dodged a bullet. I don't think I could ever have those conversations with a person.
You know, Lychee and Pabst don't actually fight that much.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I need to get, I don't know where to get this, but I just want to get some lychee jelly. I just want to have some like on hand.
Just to like just put in your water cubes. Or something?
Yeah, I just want some cubes of it.
If you had cubes of lychee and froze them, you could just use that instead of ice cubes.
Oh.
You could make gin on the rocks with lychee frozen in it, and that would probably be fantastic, because I bet it would soak it a little bit.
Sounds very delightful. Sounds worth looking into.
Make some syrup, mix it into some gin, and then lychee cube it. Mm-hmm. That's the new drink. We can't name it till we try it, but that's the next thing we got to do.
All right. I'll be looking into this to make it a reality.
Excellent.
That needs to happen. Hi. Why are you being so loud? I know you're the instigator.
I know why. DOGCAST.
Is this the DOGCAST? Leo. Is this the DOGCAST? This dog has the most severe underbite of a dog I've ever. It's like that. It's exactly like that. That's gonna be the thumbnail now. You held that
Yeah,
for too
probably.
long.
Yeah, it's like, that's the one. The algorithm's going to be like, we found the good picture.
We did it. The most photogenic of frames.
Yeah, I really don't appreciate what YouTube thinks the pictures should be. We've only gotten like one that was not flattering of you, and we've gotten like 30 that are me just being like, like in the corner.
Yeah, it's been pretty kind to me for the most part.
Yeah. I think it helps too that your lighting is usually softer. Mine has that like glow on it, and I'm guessing that it pulls something that looks interesting at
More
random.
light, yeah.
So when I'm in there and it's like, like it's probably just like getting that.
Probably.
I don't know. Over time, we'll just have to start like doing things on screen and see if it picks those, and then we'll have a better idea of what'll work. Yeah.
See my eyelashes? Oh,
Yeah.
there's just like.
Honestly, it looks like you have short eyelashes, but you put extensions on the end currently.
Yeah. Well, the mascaras that I use actually have little like fibers in it.
Okay.
So hopefully in the future it'll be easier to mask this. Hopefully actually it grows out faster. I don't know how eyelashes work in terms of growing.
I think they grow like anything else and they just stop when it's long enough. I don't know. I forget. I think mine are relatively long. Where's my...
Let's see. Hold on. My screen is frozen on a very great not a very good frame, but right now you look like
Yeah, it's going to be hard to tell.
it's still frozen. Oh my gosh, this is the longest it's ever been stuck.
Interesting.
Hey. Okay, we're back. There's no reason. Nobody's doing anything. This dog has a really weird eating ritual. He goes over, this is Leo, he goes over, takes a mouthful of food like a chipmunk, brings it over here, releases it onto the floor, and eats it like kibble by kibble.
That's troubling. Why?
I know. It just makes a mess. Like, why are you doing that, Leo? And then he kind of shares it with the other dogs, but not really. He's like not happy about it.
Would you like some of this? It's been in my mouth.
Delicious. I've softened it with my drool.
You can really taste the spit.
It's Leo flavor.
Ugh.
What do you think about that, Barry? I think it's gross. What do you think?
I think that they think.
Barry just mostly thinks.
Good. That's a good thing to think.
That's what you think. That was a blank stare I've ever seen in a dog. Oh, there's going to be some really good thumbnails for this one.
Speaking of weird looks, my favorite look, if you haven't owned a cat, you might not have seen it, but they'll like lick parts of their body like near their head, and then if you like get their attention, they'll just be like...
Yeah.
And that's the best pet look, I think.
That is good. I really like it when like you catch them mid lick and they just leave the tongue out.
Just
like
Do you have a problem? Is this a problem for you?
What? What could you possibly want?
Just so frustrated that the tongue isn't going to go anywhere. It's like passive aggressively trying to say something,
Yeah.
but I think it's just laziness. I don't really know how to interpret it.
I don't know. Cat tongues are weird.
Yeah,
Oh,
cat
spiny.
tongues. They're like fucking like I don't know. They're almost like shark teeth or something. They're
Yeah.
very strange. I assume at some point you've had a cat like lick your arm or something or leg.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
It's like
Really weird.
kind of has that like yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, that's pretty in line with everything about being a cat.
Yeah. Everything about cat anatomy is a nightmare, but they're interesting.
Mm.
Even the part that like makes them purr is like this weird thing in their throat that goes like
Yeah, I've actually never seen that or looked it up, but I think I'll leave that.
Yeah, it's a weird like voice box alteration looking thing. And I remember the first time I saw it, it was in regards to why tigers have infrasound that they can like scare things with, is because their voice box is bigger and it allows them to make like a bassier sound. So they actually use almost like a weird purr in their growl to like confuse things. So they'll that like loud growl that's like very terrifying even if you don't see anything or know what's happening is through the same mechanisms that purring is through, but for a larger animal.
Interesting. I always knew that tigers, like the sounds that they make are really interesting because they're kind of
Yeah.
like they can make cat sounds, but they're just really different.
Yeah.
Like cool. Like they do the chuffing. And I like that it's called chuffing.
Yeah, that stuff is really interesting. All
Yeah.
of those types of like large cats do interesting things. Like the cheetahs like whistle kind of. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's all very strange. Yeah, they make like a noise. Oh. As a kid who had a subscription to Cat Fancy growing up, believe me, I know.
I had a National Geographic. Oh no, I had the zoo. Oh, I've talked about this on the pod before. What's this? What is it called? It starts with the Z. Zanimals.
It wasn't Zoo Books?
Zoo books. That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking of. Zanimals. I don't know why I went there.
You got Zoo Books, you got Cat Fancy, you got Ranger Rick, all winners.
All good.
But Zoo Books sent you those 3-ring binder pages once in a while that you could keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were good. Those were good. I liked those and the weird, like, geography themed highlights cases that they would send you. Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Any of those for adults, I would take that. Or is that just called actual crime that we're supposed to be solving collectively?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably at this point. I feel like if
the stakes are just higher now.
the stakes are at least more apparent now.
Yeah.
Like, I think right now I would still be interested in getting a kid something like Zoo Books, but I might also have to tell them long, boring stories about racism as well.
Yeah.
Because we would want to be better than our parents on that shit.
Yeah. Probably a good idea. If we last that long.
Yeah, there's no guarantees.
This is my new song, If We Last That Long.
It's like I can hear the closing of the podcast approaching.
The closing song. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Okay. I'm sorry for all the dog noises. They were really very loud. I wish I could put them outside, but then they just get out. Oh yeah, and defund the police because they're all bastards. There's no good police. Really, seriously, not a single one. This is the end of the podcast. I only know 3 chords. Ooh.
DOGCAST!
DOGCAST.
Bejabbers!
Be gone. Thoughts also?